All right, today we're going to crack open a book that's been challenging and inspiring people for over a century. It's a classic from Japan, but trust me, it's probably not what you're thinking. It's packed with secrets that completely change how you read it and maybe even how you see yourself. So let's set the scene a little bit. This book came out in 1908. That's over 100 years ago. This was written in a Japan that was going through massive, rapid changes, trying to figure out its place in the modern world. But okay, here's the first curveball. This book, which is so deeply Japanese, well, it wasn't written in Japanese. Nope. It was written in English. It was meant as a message, a direct address to the Western world, to show them a side of the Japanese spirit they'd never seen before. And the guy who wrote it, Uchimura Kanzo, talk about an enigma. He was a Christian, but he was constantly at odds with the church. He was a Japanese patriot, but he was also persecuted by his own society. A real complicated figure. So what gives? What is it about this book? Why does this collection of biographies from 1908 still hit so hard today? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out. All right, let's really get into it. You see, to understand the book, you first have to understand the author, Uchimura Kanzo. He was just a fascinating guy who famously said his life was dedicated to the two J's, Jesus and Japan. And he was convinced you could be 100% devoted to both, no contradiction whatsoever. And this belief led him to a really radical idea for his time, the Mukyokai, or no church movement. He was basically asking, hey, do we really need all the official stuff, the buildings, the rituals, the clergy, to have faith? He argued that anyone, any single person, could connect directly with God on their own. For that era, that was a revolutionary idea that really set him apart. Now, Uchimura didn't just dream this up out of nowhere. He was actually inspired by the American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, who'd written a book with the same title. But just look at the difference here. Emerson picks these global heavy hitters like Plato and Napoleon. Uchimura's response? He picks 5 people who are quintessentially Japanese. He was basically saying to the West, hey, look, we have our own giants, our own models for a great life, and you need to hear their stories. But, and this is a big but, if you think this is just a simple collection of biographies, you're not even close. You're just scratching the surface. Because this is where we get to the first huge secret of the book. So on the face of it, yeah, the book's about these 5 guys. You've got a revolutionary samurai, a feudal lord, a peasant sage, a teacher, and a Buddhist prophet. Pretty diverse bunch, right? From all over Japanese history. They're the heroes of the story. Or are they? And that question, that's the key that unlocks the whole thing. You see, this book isn't really about 5 men. It's about 6. And the 6th one is invisible. He's the real main character of every single one of these stories. And that character is Ten, the Japanese concept for heaven. But we're not talking about a place with clouds and gates. Think of it more like a transcendent, guiding force in the universe. Uchimura's big, radical point is that these guys, Saigo, Uesugi, all of them, they weren't great because they were geniuses. No, they were great because they learned how to get out of their own way and just become channels, instruments for the will of heaven. And this isn't some deep, hidden code you have to decipher. It's right there, page 1, first sentence. He kicks the whole book off, not with a person, but with Ten as the one calling the shots, literally commanding Japan into existence. He's basically shouting from the rooftops from the very beginning who the real hero is. Okay, so let's peel back another layer, because this leads us right to the second secret, and this one is way more personal. The book's not just about heaven, and it's not just about those 5 historical guys. It's about someone else completely. And here it is, the second big secret. Representative Men of Japan is actually Uchimura Kanzo's own spiritual autobiography. He's not just playing historian here. He's using these 5 lives as mirrors, as a way to look into his own soul, to work through his own struggles and his own deepest convictions. Every biography is basically a chapter of his own inner life. And you can see this most clearly with the final figure he writes about, Nichiren. Think about it for a second. Uchimura is a 19th century Christian. Nichiren is a 13th century Buddhist prophet. Why the intense connection? Because Uchimura saw his own life reflected in Nichiren's story. Both were reformers who shook things up. Both got punished for sticking to their guns. Both felt like they were a lone voice trying to warn a nation in crisis. So when Uchimura was writing about Nichiren, he was really, truly writing about himself. So, here's the real takeaway from all this. This book, with all these layers we've been talking about, it's not just a history text, and it's not just a secret diary. The secrets aren't just trivia to uncover. They're actually an invitation to you. The whole thing is built like a set of mirrors. First, you have the 5 men, and their lives are a mirror reflecting the will of heaven. Then the book itself becomes a mirror, reflecting the soul of the author, Uchimura. But then there's one last turn. He takes that mirror and he points it right back at you, the reader. See, the ultimate point of the book isn't to be a history lesson. It's meant to be a template, a blueprint for your own life. Uchimura isn't just saying, wow, weren't these guys great? He's saying, look at the pattern. They found their purpose by tuning in to something bigger than themselves. And now, it's your turn. And that brings us to the final question, the one the book really wants you to answer. Who are your representative people? Who are the people, living or dead, whose lives act as a mirror for you? Who pushes you to do more than just admire them, but to actually find that same guiding force in your own life? That's the book's true challenge. And that, right there, is why this book still feels so incredibly alive, more than 100 years later. Because a true classic, it's not some dusty monument you just admire from afar. It's a conversation. And it's a conversation that isn't really over until it's been read, wrestled with, and ultimately rewritten in the lives of its readers.